Ancient Egypt. The name conjures images of immense pyramids, golden pharaohs, and a civilization obsessed with death and the afterlife. We see a world of order, ritual, and divine law, written in hieroglyphs on stone monuments built to last an eternity. It feels rigid, majestic, and distant. But that is only half the story. Behind the sacred carvings and golden masks lay a world humming with a different kind of energy, one of vibrant life, not just solemn death. A world where the path to the divine could be found not just in prayer, but in pleasure. A world where sex was not a sin to be controlled, but a sacred power to be channeled. Today, on the Veiled Chronicles, we venture past the tombs and into the temples, to uncover the forbidden truth about the role of divine pleasure in the most powerful civilization of the ancient world. To understand Egypt, we must understand their view of the cosmos. For them, creation itself was an act of divine sexuality. In their primary creation myth, the universe began with the god Atum, who brought forth the next generation of gods through an act of divine masturbation. This wasn't seen as crude. It was a profound statement that life-giving force was the engine of all existence. This belief saturated their culture. Fertility was the ultimate blessing, the cornerstone of their world. Without it, the Nile would not flood, the crops would fail, and Mayat, the cosmic order, would crumble. Deities of pleasure were among their most revered. There was Min, the virile god of fertility, depicted with an erect phallus, and the beloved Hathor, goddess of love, beauty, music, and intoxication. Her worship wasn't quiet or somber, it was ecstatic. Her great celebrations, like the Festival of Drunkenness, involved days of ritual drinking, music, and dance, designed to break down the barriers between the mortal and the divine through sheer ecstasy. This worldview created a role for women within the temple that is almost unthinkable today. The priestess who served the gods not just with chants, but with her very being. The most powerful of these was the god's wife of Amun, a title of immense political and religious significance. Held by the highest-ranking women of the royal family like Queen Hatshepsut, this was no mere honorary position. The god's wife was the divine consort to the chief god, Amun-Ra. Through complex rituals, she was believed to stimulate the god's creative energies, thereby ensuring the fertility and stability of the entire nation. She was also a CEO in her own right, controlling vast estates, a huge staff, and a treasury that rivaled the pharaohs. She was proof that in ancient Egypt, sacred sexuality was inextricably linked to worldly power. But did this concept of sacred intimacy extend beyond the queen? The Greek historian Herodotus certainly thought so. Writing in the 5th century BC, he described a practice that has been the subject of intense debate ever since: sacred prostitution. He claimed that in some temples, women would serve the gods by offering their bodies to strangers, with any payment given as a holy donation to the temple. Many modern Egyptologists are skeptical, arguing that Herodotus was an outsider who may have misinterpreted the rituals through the lens of his own Greek culture, or that the term for priestess was mistranslated. And yet the evidence within Egypt remains tantalizing. Temple walls are adorned with carvings that are surprisingly sensual. We see goddesses in sheer linen, musicians and dancers in erotic poses. Private tombs contain art depicting intimate moments between husbands and wives, celebrating a healthy and joyous sexuality. Was Herodotus completely wrong, or was he describing a hidden layer of temple life, a secret rite that wasn't meant for monumental stone carvings? The truth likely lies somewhere in the middle, a system of devotion that we can only glimpse through a veil of history and cultural bias. Let's imagine for a moment a young woman initiated into the service of Hathor. For her, this is not exploitation, but an honor. It is a path to status, security, and a connection with the divine. The air in the temple is thick with the smoke of Kai-Fi incense and the heady scent of blue lotus flowers. The sound is not of silent prayer, but of constant music. The rhythmic, hypnotic shaking of the sistrum, a sacred rattle used to summon the goddess. She learns the songs, the dances, and the rituals of pleasure. The priestesses, known as Hathor's drunkards, would chant and drink sacred beer, entering a trance-like state to become one with their patron. In this world, the physical and the spiritual were not separate. To embody pleasure was to honor the goddess of pleasure. An act of intimacy within the sacred precinct would be a direct communion with the divine, a ritual to ensure the fertility of the land, blessed and facilitated by a daughter of Hathor. But this was not just about piety. It was about power and profit. The great temples of Egypt, like the Karnak complex, were massive economic engines. They were states within a state, owning a third of all fertile land and controlling the nation's grain supply. The offerings, the sale of amulets, the performance of rituals for the wealthy, and yes, perhaps the services of the temple women, all contributed to an immense treasury. Religion was big business, and pleasure was a valuable commodity. So what happened to this world where sexuality was sacred? Why has it been so completely erased? The answer lies in conquest and the clash of civilizations. First, the Greeks under the Ptolemies began to merge their gods with Egypt's. Then came the Romans, who brought their own pantheon. But the final blow came with the rise of Christianity. This new religion brought a radically different morality, one that valued celibacy, condemned physical pleasure as a source of sin, and saw the old gods as demons. In 391 AD, the Roman Emperor Theodosius I ordered the closure of all pagan temples. The sanctuaries of Hathor fell silent. The rituals were forbidden. The priestesses were cast out, and their sacred duties were systematically rewritten by the new faith as tales of depravity and corruption. The story of the temple priestess forces us to question our own assumptions. It reveals a world where spirituality and sexuality were intertwined, where pleasure could be a form of prayer. It's a profound reminder that history is written by the victors, and that morality is not a fixed point. Beneath the layers of sand and centuries of judgment, there are truths about our ancestors waiting to be rediscovered, truths that challenge the very foundations of our own world. If you're ready to keep exploring the chapters of history that have been sealed shut, subscribe to the Veiled Chronicles. Now we want to hear from you. Was this a form of divine worship and female empowerment, or a system of exploitation disguised as religion? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, keep digging for the truth.